I'm not even going to try anymore. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny, and
Kenny squared.
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast, Kenny, so much to talk about today. We're so lucky to be in this space here in New York. Well, I'm still in New York, and I know your heart is still here in New York. I don't even know where to start, but I'll start with this date though for you, and you probably already know this. September 27th, 2009. What's the significance of that date?
2009. So that'd be the year the Yankees won the title. That's not the
Right.
year. Is that the time that Derek Jeter broke the hits record?
No,
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 I think that
no,
was
no.
earlier.
Think what happened this past Sunday. Think what happened this past Sunday here in New York.
Oh, that's right. All four New York teams won.
Yes, that's the last time that happened. And so, what is that? 13 years ago? That's a long drought, man.
Yeah.
And I should have looked up when the last time the Giants and Jets won. That's probably been a little been a bit. Maybe it was even last year. I don't know, but that probably has been a minute as well. But what a great Sunday. All right, we got to start with history, and then I really want to get into Jets, Browns, and Giants, Panthers, and some of your surprises from week 2, and then talk a little bit about there's some big games coming up week 3 as some teams are going to be desperate. But we got to start with history, man. And Aaron Judge. Can I say this real quick? Because I want to give you time and space to talk about the Yankees and Judge and put this in perspective. But you know what I so like is so many things I like about Aaron Judge. But one of the things I really like about him, and I always have, he hits a lot of home runs to right center, which tells me as big and strong as he is, he's up there not trying to hit home runs. He's just going with pitches and just, using his power, and balls are flying out of the yard. I mean, am I off? So many of his home runs are to right center or to right field. And I just, you don't see that much anymore, from a power hitter. And I love that. That just means that he's trying to drive the ball, trying to get a double. And I love that about him. So you probably looked up that date when the last time the Jets and Giants won. So I'll give you time and space to talk a little bit about Judge and the Yankees and put this history into perspective.
Um, I couldn't find Jets and Giants. I did find this one though. On Sunday, it was the first time since 2011 that the following three teams, not like 6 or 8, three, won on the same day: New York Jets, the Detroit Lions, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Man, oh
So
man.
I'll just leave that there. As far as Judge goes, I'm gonna kind of go with this again, like, because I feel like you're starting to see a little less of the talk. Because a couple weeks ago, there was like a strong debate. Well, Otani does both, but Judge
Oh,
only hits, so Otani
come
should
on.
win MVP. And I heard an interesting argument on this, and I think we could both relate to it. This year, Otani is pitching similar to Nestor Cortez, and he's hitting similar to Pete Alonso, um, based on numbers. So, like, I can kind of understand where that argument comes from. But when you compare him to what Judge has done, it's absolutely incredible. These are the following things that Aaron Judge leads the American League in: obviously, home runs, RBIs, batting average, runs scored, walks, total bases, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, and WAR.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
he leads all of major leagues by 20 home runs. Um, the next closest is Kyle Schwarber, who's had an excellent year. He hit his
Yeah.
40th.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think, like, when it comes to looking at him as an MVP, I think you can't look any further than that 60th home run a couple nights ago, where this team is dead in the water. It's 8-4, or his home run makes it 8-4, or 8-5, I should say. It just looks like it's one of those nights, and it looks like kind of a meaningless home run. But it seemed like when he hit the home run, everyone else is like, let's rally around him and win this game. And then Giancarlo Stanton, who I feel like doesn't get enough credit for how well he handles New York. He was booed earlier because, like, you've seen him before. How when he strikes out, sometimes it just looks like it looks awful,
All
and
right.
he just looks lost. And he's looked lost the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
really since he's come back from the injured list. But he hits obviously a big grand slam to win the game. Um, the first time, by the way, because Oswaldo Cabrera, another guy, it's kind of come out of nowhere. He hit a grand slam yesterday. The Yankees have hit back-to-back nights of grand slams twice, I believe. They're the first team ever to do that. Um,
Wow. Wow.
I'm very interested to kind of see how this continues with Judge, because obviously the next two are going to be really, really big. Um, and also, it could very well be against the Red Sox.
Uh,
How poetic justicey would that be? But what's also interesting is Roger Maris hit number 61 against the Red Sox too. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do the same. Um, but one of my, it's not really a concern, but like one of my concerns is, especially now that we're two away, it's very possible that he breaks the record on Friday. And Friday night's game is on Apple TV. And like nothing against like I've seen a lot of people hate the Apple TV broadcast. I haven't really watched them because it's just kind of annoying to get to it. Um, and also the Yankees haven't been on it a lot, but like it would just feel really weird if it's not Michael Kay calling it. John Sterling has said from here on in, like he said he was going to take a few games off. He's like, no, not anymore. I'm going to call all of the
you
Eric Bedford
can't. This
runs.
is too historic. 61 years,
Yeah,
man. 61 over 61 years. The Apple thing is not that bad, but and isn't aren't the games free on Apple? It just
yeah,
takes a little while for you to get to it. Yeah. Um,
yeah, and like because also I don't have the Apple TV app on my TV, so it's just on the phone.
oh, I got you.
So like,
Okay.
so like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, especially we're talking him
Yeah.
potentially hitting 62. I'll still watch it,
Uh,
but I'm not gonna be happy about
you
it.
got him.
I'd
I
rather
know.
like I want to hear Michael Kay and Paul O'Neill call that, and David
Oh,
Cohn as well.
Michael K is gonna be so upset if that happens and he's not calling it. Cliff Floyd, though, my guy is on there. He does a really nice job. Is on those Apple broadcasts. I had no idea that I know that. Listen, he's probably gonna win the Triple Crown. You know why? Pressure doesn't seem to bother this guy, and so I could see, I think he'll get it this weekend. I think Roger Maris got his on the last day of the season. Um, if
Yeah.
certainly I wouldn't remember that, but if I remember reading about that and seeing that, I think it was on the last day of the season. But I think Judge will just get it out of the way, and I could see him hitting, 65, 66. Be nice to see him pass Sammy Sosa, right? Um, but I think that he's really, I think he's truly. Some guys will say the right things, but I think he truly means when he says, he's just concerned with winning the games and getting into the postseason and winning a championship. I think for him, he means it. I mean, listen, let's go back in perspective. He's a free agent at the end of this year. Are you a little bit concerned that somebody is just gonna like open up the vault? Now he is 30 years old, but are you? I don't think you're gonna get this 10-year, 12-year contract again. Maybe there'll be a dumb owner that would offer that. I don't think that dumb owner would be the Yankees, but I think the Yankees will offer him a lot of money to stay here. I mean, you can't let him go. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I am worried that someone is going to be like, say, like a Giants or God forbid the Red Sox or somebody's going to like try to really up the ante. But yeah, you can't let him go. Like you have to sign him to a big deal. He becomes the next captain and hopefully starts a nice run of championships.
Yeah, that's interesting. The next captain, I like that. He definitely would fit the mold. I don't think do teams have captains anymore? I don't know. I guess for the Yankees that would be a nice
Now,
tradition. But that'd be a nice tradition to get back to. But I just think that his makeup is special. We've said these last few years if he's healthy, he would be great, and he just hasn't been healthy. But he's been healthy this year, and it's just been really, really special to see. and 61 years after Maris hit 61 homers in 1961. I mean, come on, the stars can't be aligned better here. Now Maris won the MVP that year, and I believe the next. Listen to me, Judge, with all those categories, and those are the categories that a lot of the voters look for. You and I still we're a little old school, right? We look for home runs, RBIs, batting average. I think on base is big as well. But he's leading in a bunch of those categories that a lot of the writers now, look at, right? I mean, there's no way that he can't. He should be a unanimous MVP, this year for this season that he's having. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I don't think Cabrera was unanimous. Neither was Frank Robinson or Yastrzemski. I'm thinking back to the guys that won the Triple Crown, but still, I mean, the season he's playing together, none of those guys broke this 61-year-old record for the American League. It's just been amazing.
Yeah.
So Yankees have come around here. You feeling confident that they're gonna hold on to this division?
Yeah. Because it also kind of seems like the other teams are beating up on each other. Right now they got a 6.5 game lead on Toronto. Magic number is right now at 8. I believe I'm gonna check this right now, but I believe that they play the Blue Jays coming up this week. So it does kind of, I feel a little bit more confident than I did, say, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the starting pitching is starting to look better. Nestor Cortez is kind of, after his fake IL stint, seems to kind of be back in the groove. Garrett Cole has been doing pretty good. To me, the biggest thing is Severino, though. Yeah, they do play the Blue Jays this upcoming week. So
okay, all right, yeah.
But Severino's had a good start back, and I mean, if you can go 1, 2, 3 with those guys, I think they'll be in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Before we get to the Mets, and I'm with you. I think the Yankees are going to hold on and win this division. There's no doubt, and because their pitching has come back around now. Ke'Bryan Hayes, you asked me about him the other day. Did I know that he was Charlie Hayes' son? And yes, I know that. I'm surprised I hadn't mentioned it. But did you catch? We're on the positive tip, right? So we're not going to put him down. He's got a world of talent. I'm not sure why he's dropped off a little bit this year. He had a really good year last year, and I think he's only batting 240 or something like that this year. But did you catch? Todd Zeal caught this when they were playing the Mets, and there was a big play where a ball was mishandled in the outfield, and Eduardo Escobar came all the way around to score. And as he's coming around third, which there was possibly going to be a throw to third, they caught a picture of him with his glove off, and he's popping pumpkin seeds in his mouth during the play.
Oh gosh,
it was just the oddest thing. And again, playing. Listen, the Mets didn't beat. They beat up on the Pirates this past weekend, but before that, with Washington, with Florida, they haven't played that great with them. But the highlight has been watching some of these teams and why they are where their records are at. Because it's always dangerous to play these teams at this time of year because they want to prove it. But the Pirates, and you're probably seeing the same thing now, they have zero sense of urgency. They make these really weird plays in the field. They tend to not hustle all the time, except for a couple of their players. And it's just weird. They blank out on the field like Hayes did. It wasn't just him. There were a couple of other players that were just like not calling for pop-ups and stuff like that. You just clearly sometimes see those little things, especially this time of year, why you have your good teams and you have teams that are 25, 30 games under 500. And the Pirates is pretty easy to see. And you hate to see that because that manager seems like he's a good manager, but I doubt if he's there next year. Maybe he will be, but anyway, can we get to the Mets? The Mets clinch first time since 2016. I'm wearing my Mets, garb today, and I think that I'll just say this one thing, two quick things, and then we can move on to football. I think that it is really, really good that them and the Braves are battling. And it's so weird because when they win, the Braves win, vice versa. And then the Braves lost yesterday. The Nationals pull it out late. They get 2 runs, I think, in the 8th inning, and they hold on to win. And here the Mets get spanked at that same time when the final score came up. Guy for the Brewers hit a grand slam, and it's 6-0. And I said, I don't think the Mets are coming back here because the bats just looked listless all day yesterday. But I think these games are still important, even though they've clinched a playoff spot. They really want the division, and then now you get to and not this weekend, but next weekend they have those 3 games against the Braves in Atlanta. I think these all these games have a postseason feel. So they're going to Oakland now, which again the A's have had obviously a tough year. I'm sure we'll probably see some of the same things why they're so far under 500 too. But you got to go out and win these games. And so I think that's important for them. But the last thing I'll say, I could boil down why the Mets clinched in one reason why they're going to be back in the postseason, and that is the great job that Billy Epler did in signing and bringing in Buck Showalter. And maybe Epler wasn't the GM yet, but Steve Cohen, Showalter has put it all together. You have all this talent. Now, listen, I don't want to downplay. You still need players, and Alonso and Lindor have had great years. Lindor's got 25 homers, 99 RBIs. What a bounce back year for him. Alonso's going to break the Met RBI record because he's got 121 now with 37 homers. So he's probably going to hit 40 and maybe 140 RBIs, which will be spectacular year. I don't think he'll get the MVP in the National League, but he's definitely going to get some votes without a doubt. Um, but Showalter has just brought so much of steadiness, of leadership. Leadership is everything, and he's just brought these players together. The pickups were great. Mark Canha has been exactly what we expected. Starling Marte has exceeded expectations. They really miss him. All of the guys they picked up, obviously Scherzer has just been spectacular when he's not hurt. So it's been a great year, but Showalter has put it all together. So we'll talk more. This is a great time of year, especially now for us in New York. But we'll talk more about both these teams. But now I'm anxious to switch over to football here because we got to look at it from 2 different angles. I want to start in Cleveland there first because I got to tell you, man, I didn't, because we were out. I didn't see much of the Jet game until the last couple of minutes, and that was all you kind of needed to see. The Jets hung in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody gets an onside kick these days, and the Jets recover one. And I was just stunned at the Browns, their defense there towards the end. Listen, I'm happy because the Jets pulled it out, but an improbable win. They scored 13 points in the less than 2 minutes, a minute 57 left. And so go Jets. Flacco, fountain of youth. He showed it. He stepped up, and he came back. I thought and I said this a few weeks ago, right? I said I think Flacco still has something in the tank, and he showed that he did. And so I'm anxious to hear your thoughts first, but also what was it? What was the mood like there in Cleveland to lose that game?
Basically stunned. I didn't watch a ton of the game either. I feel like I was doing something. I don't remember, but like I was following it a little bit on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, so the Browns just scored another touchdown, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, the Jets won? What? So I think it's just very stunning. Especially like there was a lot of good vibes beating Baker Mayfield last week and the last second field goal. Like everything was kind of like, okay, I think we kind of do this. And it's like, oh, same old Browns. So we'll kind
Yeah.
of see what they have this week. They play tonight, actually. They play the Steelers. So that'll be very interesting.
Okay. They
Um,
played. Oh, so they got a quick turnaround against the Steelers. Okay. Okay. Um, I imagine it's done there. But listen, your team is 2-0, and they get the spotlight Monday night against Dallas. So I'm anxious to hear your thoughts now on Giants, Panthers, and where you see this Giant team now.
Yeah, well, I think these first two games have kind of been like kind of the litmus test of like, oh well, kind of seems like this team is starting to believe in themselves a little bit. Um, I think also Brian Dayball has, between kind of not playing some of the star wide receivers, it's kind of sending a message like, hey, I run this team. I don't care how much money you're making, you got to produce. And like last year, I mean, I've mentioned this stat before. The wide receivers were awful. I think they had 5 touchdowns all year last year.
It was crazy.
Um,
One of your guys is really unhappy. That was headlines this morning. Galladay,
yeah,
he's really not happy.
yeah. Well, he's getting paid a lot of money to not score touchdowns. So,
Yeah, yeah.
also, side note, I don't know if you saw this, that the Giants have reached out to Odell about a possible
Really?
reunion, but
Wow.
it also kind of seems like he wouldn't do it unless someone other than Daniel Jones is the quarterback.
What?
Um,
Like
I
who?
don't know
I mean,
why.
come on. Not many
You
choices
got
here.
me.
Come on. Yeah.
Um, but you look at this team. So they play Dallas Monday night. Cooper Rush, he 2-0 as a starter, but only 2 starts. We'll see what happens. Um, Not gonna discount them at all. But then also they play the Bears next week. Is it possible we could be looking at this team as 4-0? It's one of like the few 4-0 teams remaining. Like that
Yeah.
would be crazy. Now, I don't think that I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh yeah, they'll be 17-0." Like that'd be crazy. But like kind of seeing this team as a little bit of surprise. Even like if you look at some of the teams that would start out like 3-0, 4-0, 5-1, but then still finish around 500, I'd take that. Like, let's say they do start out 4-0 and then they finish 9-8. I think that would be a huge upgrade to where they were before. Um, I'm thinking still the Eagles will probably win that division anyway, but also the NFC is kind of still wide open. I
Yeah.
mean,
No doubt.
like the Packers haven't looked fantastic to start out the season. The Rams also haven't. The 49ers just lost Trey Lance. I mean, Cowboys have lost Dak until probably around Halloween. Like, who do you really like go and say, oh wow, like they're the overwhelming favorites? Like you look at the AFC, the Bills are up there, the Chiefs are up there, maybe the Chargers, but like you look at the NFC, you don't really have that at all.
Yeah.
And I think as a result of that, like maybe the Giants can surprise some people. Maybe
Yeah.
having the right coach and a better culture can really make that big of a difference. So
Oh, look at the Mets. Yeah,
yeah,
I there's no doubt. So I'm getting, and so I haven't heard this type of confidence in a while from you with the Giants, because you're talking a possibility of 4-0, and I can certainly see that, happening. It's not impossible. Um, and so the Giants, I think for me, these first couple of weeks, I, I'm more impressed with their defense than anything else. Some of the highlights I
yeah.
saw, they're making big play stops. What do you make of the difference here in the Giants defense?
I would 100% agree. Because like the offense, I think you were going to see a little bit of improvement anyway. Saquon Barkley looks healthy. Daniel
Yeah,
Jones, having a different quarterback system might help him a little bit. But I think more importantly, there, like Saquon is a huge, like a
yeah,
healthy Saquon is a huge upgrade from last year.
no
But
doubt.
I agree, the defense has been incredible, and it kind of seemed like because there were several times last year. I remember the Chiefs. I think also against the Bucks. Probably again. There was another like really good team where they had a lead with about 2 minutes left,
They should
but
have
like
won.
you
Yeah,
felt,
yeah,
yeah, like they should have won. But then you felt like, oh well, they're just gonna let this team run all over them,
yeah,
and we're gonna look at another loss. But now it kind of seems like they actually have they have a shot,
yeah,
and really like that's kind of one of the biggest things with the NFL is like you're close within that 2 minute mark. If you could shut the door, then there you go.
yeah,
I mean, obviously there's exceptions. Look at the Jets this weekend, but like, and also the Ravens. But um, like I think I don't know. I'm not saying this team will still make the playoffs. It would be great if they did. But like I said last week, there's always a worst to first team. A lot of people would probably say that team will be the Ravens or the Broncos. But sometimes it's a team you don't see coming. Like last year, no one really saw the Bengals going from worst to first. A lot of people had the
Right.
Browns or the
All the way to the
Steelers.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not fun for the Bengals this year because the pressure now is on, right? We'll get to them in a second. Um, I listen. There's cause for optimism here in week 3. We we typically don't aren't that optimistic, as Jet and Giant fans because we just haven't had much to cheer about for several years now. But maybe we've got something to cheer about this year, man. I'm definitely optimistic. I'm anxious to get your take on week 2. We'll go to week 2 and then we'll talk a little bit about week 3 coming up here. Your take on the Dolphins. Oh my gosh, some of these big comeback games. Dolphin game as well as Cardinals Raiders. What was some of your takes on those?
Um, well, I'll start with the Dolphins. I know there was a lot of weird stuff with Tua early on. Like the whole and maybe part of that was the Brian Flores being like forced to do it situation. But like the Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting this game, Tua is starting this game, Ryan Fitzpatrick is ending this game, Tua is playing 5 drives in this game. It was just all the weird stuff. Now it kind of seems like a head coach that really is putting emphasis on him. He's got much better weapons than he's had the last. I mean, obviously, adding Tyreek Hill is gonna improve anybody.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like they look like they could actually be a legit team, especially if Jalen Waddle keep. I mean, obviously you're not gonna have a crazy performance like that every week, but like they have 2 legitimate threats at wide receiver, and especially in like today's NFL, like that's what you kind of need.
yeah,
Um, and it kind of once I think one of the themes from this week is no lead is ever safe. Um, like I had seen this kind of going back to the Yankees. Like if you left that game in the 8th inning, you must feel very sorry for yourself. Um, kind of in the same way, like you never know what can happen, especially like these kind of big home run type plays. Um, the Ravens, it looked like maybe they were on the right track, but then guys are getting hurt again. So I wonder what's going on there. Um, so I don't know. Are you worried about the Dolphins? I'll ask you that question.
No, I think the Dolphins are definitely going to be a contender. I think that Tua. I think you really summed it up. Now that he kind of knows that that's his team now, he's playing his game, which his game is very helter skelter. You know, how many plays, if you watch some of the highlights, that he's just running all over the place and then he finds somebody open, sort of like he's back in Alabama. But that's his game. He's just one of these really special gifted athletes. And I'm not sure why Flores just didn't hand the team over, to him totally these last couple of years. And I know he had some injuries as well. But the Dolphins are going to be good in that division. If I'm Buffalo, I think I might be a little bit worried. Um, the desperation. So this is why. Let me see if you agree with this. One of the reasons that makes the early part of the NFL season so special to me is that you just start to see teams that are desperate in week 2, week 3, week 4. But you saw that desperation in the fourth quarter with Arizona, how they came back on the Raiders. It was almost like they knew, Murray knew that our season could be done right here. We go 0-2 in this division, right? What did you think about that comeback?
That was also one of those out of nowhere comebacks
Yeah,
because also because obviously the Cardinals had a very noisy offseason. Kyler Murray scrubbing his Instagram, and
yeah,
then the whole focus clause, essentially, like don't play video games, we're watching you type of clause.
yeah,
Um,
which is
like
crazy.
it
Yeah,
just all seems kind
yeah.
of weird.
Come on. Yeah,
And also like they still gave him the big contract because probably because they didn't want him to hold out and everything. Just it's very chaotic. If they started out 0-2, that noise would be very loud. People would be chanting Call of Duty at the stadiums. Like
this is
everything would
true.
just be going absolutely crazy. So I think having that win is definitely big. But also you look at the other side with the Raiders. I don't know what's happening with them. Devonte Adams, like he's supposed to be like he's reuniting with his college buddy, but it kind of
Yeah.
seems like it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I can't put my I don't know how the Raiders let that game slip away. I don't it seemed to me they didn't play with that same desperation. And again, the coach McDaniels is going to be watched very carefully, right? Because it took a long time in between him getting a second shot here. And most of it was his own doing. He didn't want to take another shot. Goes back to the Patriots, reinvents himself, and now he's got another shot. And he was very picky at the job he would take, and he knows the talent that this team has. And I don't know that the Raiders played with the desperation that the Cardinals did. There's one other thing with Murray too. He's got an ex-girlfriend, not abuse or anything like that, but she apparently is a big I don't know, like influencer on social media, and she's just trashing him. And that's also been some of the things that the fans have been yelling at Murray, saying that she's been just saying he's not a good guy, and the breakup was really wrong, something to that effect. But so he's had a couple of things here, but it's like his focus was just on the game this past week. And the Cardinals are talented. I mean, yeah, I was really surprised how they fell off last year. And you know, all right, let me go to another one. You mentioned Trey Lance. Were you surprised that that's back to being Jimmy G's team now? And how they just once they put him in, it was game over, and how easily the 49ers won that game. Um, I don't know what took so long, Come on. I don't get it with Jimmy G.
Yeah, like I know Jimmy G isn't like he doesn't have like the arm of Aaron Rodgers or like the finesse of a Patrick Mahomes, but there has to be something said about a guy that just comes in and wins. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact stat, but he has like I think like the seventh highest winning percentage in league history. Like he's up there, and I don't understand it either because look, Trey Lance, I think he could be a great prospect, although I
Yeah.
don't know now because
Yeah.
of the injuries.
Yeah.
Um, I forgot what the number is, but like, I mean, you look at it, the guy has barely played over the last couple years. Obviously, like, I mean, it's not red shirted, but essentially red shirted last year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and also he didn't play during the COVID season. Um, and like the 49ers put a lot of eggs into the Trey Lance basket. And if it doesn't work out long term, like they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place because you're not going to be able to trade him and you've given up 3 first-round picks for him. But I think Jimmy G gives you the best chance to win. It seems like the team really likes him. It seems
Yeah.
like he's got everything going for him.
I'm riding with him. I'm sorry. And Lance Lance was a great college quarterback, but we don't know in the NFL yet. And you've got a guy here that's done nothing but win. I'm sorry. I'm riding with him. But I mean, they probably don't have a choice now because I think Lance is going to be out for a while. All right, two other quickies from this past week, and then I want to get your take on week 3 here coming up. Were you surprised that the Bengals with a really nice comeback in that game? Bengals Cowboys was the big 4 o'clock game, 4:25 game, and but the Cowboys held on, got that field goal late, and held on for the win. Did that surprise you? Are you surprised the Bengals are 0-2?
Um, I guess I'm more surprised that the Bengals are 0-2 than the Cowboys coming back and winning. I mean, it's been this way for the Cowboys for a lot of years. Every time everyone thinks they're going to win, they lose. Every time you think they're going to lose, they win. And it's always that back and forth with them.
This
Um,
is true. Yeah,
but also, like, the Super Bowl hangover is real for
it
Joe
is.
Burrow and the
Yeah,
Bengals.
it is.
Um, this is another stat I go back to. I think it's 17, the last 17 quarterbacks to make the Super Bowl and lose, never make it back.
Yeah,
The last one to
crazy.
make it back was Jim Kelly of the Bills, but he never won
Yeah,
it. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
I don't know. It might just be also that it's still only week 2, but it could get very late, very early because like the Ravens look good. The Browns have a really good defensive line. The Steelers are still kind of in this. Like is it possible that Mitch Trubisky is a slight upgrade from an old Ben Roethlisberger last year? Maybe.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting. It could get
yeah.
late early for them.
It can. It can. Last quick question from week 2. Are you more surprised that the Titans are 0-2 or how easily the Bills just ran over them? And how are you surprised more how good the Bills look these first 2 weeks, beating both the Rams and Titans? Or are you surprised that the Titans are 0-2?
I think a little more surprised that the Titans are 0-2. I think the Bills, like going into the season, the Bills were kind of the consensus Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
So like seeing them dominate, I think the fact that they completely dominated the Rams and then completely dominate the Titans, the Super Bowl champs, and then the number 1 seed last year, like I think that does say a lot. Um, but still, once again, like with the Titans, it's not as getting late quick because that division is awful. Um, to me, one of the surprises of the week would be the Colts losing again in Jacksonville. You know, they haven't won in 8 years there.
I did
And it's
not
not
know
like
that.
Jacksonville has been
Wow.
crazy good.
Yeah, I know
Um,
that they had lost there before last couple of years. I didn't realize it was 8 straight times. Wow. Wow.
yeah, so and the Colts have been good through most of that stretch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Colts are in there. The Texans still don't look great. So I mean the Titans, they still have a shot at that division at 0-2.
Yeah.
But
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
it's just
No doubt.
I think
They
that's
gotta get
still a little
going
bit
though.
more surprising. Yeah.
Okay. They gotta get going, no doubt. All right. So week 3, um, which one of these 3 are you the most interested in watching? You've got Green Bay at Tampa, you've got the Rams at Arizona, and you've got San Francisco at Denver. Some pretty good match. I believe San Francisco Denver is a Sunday night game. So some pretty good matchups. Which one has your interest the most?
Can you can you name
Sure.
those again?
Yeah, Green Bay at Tampa, the Rams at Arizona, and San Francisco at
Okay.
Denver.
Um ooh, I think I would go probably Packers Bucks. Um
Yeah.
because like the whole, and I remember this was when I was at North Point, this was a huge thing. Like we really want to see Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And I know we're kind of past that. Like, I mean, Tom Brady is still old, but he's still working. Um, and I don't know, Aaron Rodgers still, he kind of seems like the like let's say like the kid that's really really old in youth group when everyone else is young, and he's like, I feel like really weird here, but I'm still gonna do it. Um, but like I don't know, I think that's still a very compelling matchup. The Bucks are like a weird 2-0. But if they go 3-0, and especially over Green Bay, Green Bay will start to kind of hit a little bit of the panic button because they'll be 1-2. But I think that's a very interesting matchup. Number 2, I would probably say would be the Rams and Cardinals because
Yeah.
that could kind of start to set apart
Yeah.
the winners from the losers there.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of star power there. I agree with you. Tampa Bay hasn't really hit their stride yet, even though they're 2-0. I think I'm interested in that game, but I'm certainly more interested in San Francisco Denver. I think to see Jimmy G 49ers again, and I'm really watching Wilson really carefully here with Denver. Looked like they were going to lose. They also pulled out a late game with the Texans, right? On Sunday. So I'm interested in all of them. I think those are some good matchups. All right, my Jets, Cincinnati. I think this is a litmus test because Cincy is not going to want to go 0-3. They are going to be playing with desperation right from the beginning. But I think the Jets have something going here. So that's a compelling 1 o'clock matchup. And curious on, I'm assuming you're going with Giants Monday night. But how you see that game shaping up Monday night?
I feel like anytime they play, like it seems like, I don't know, Cowboys Giants to me has become kind of the Yankees Red Sox. I feel
Yeah,
like anytime they play, it's always prime time because also,
yeah,
ironically, Yankees and Red Sox are playing this Sunday night.
Yeah.
Um, Also,
Yeah.
I didn't. This is off topic here. Yankees and Red Sox tonight are playing on Fox, which is
Oh, they're on
interesting.
Fox tonight. Yeah, they've done
Yeah,
the last few Thursdays because they had the Mets and Pirates last Thursday. For some reason, they thought they were going to get Thursday night football back, and they had to fill those spots. But that is interesting. Okay.
so that'll be an interesting viewership.
Yeah.
Probably in here, Cleveland, everyone's gonna watch
Oh,
the game, but or Thursday
yeah.
night game. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, I feel like anytime they play, it's usually a pretty tight game. I think the Giants end up winning, but I think it's gonna be a close
Okay. All right. We're picking Giants. All right. All right. Let's shift gears real quick, and then we'll get to inspiration. Let's talk about non-inspiration here first. And then some inspiration. We'll switch over to the NBA. And so it came out yesterday that Sarver wants to now sell the Phoenix Suns. And I texted you again. We're on the positive tip, but I just think that that is such a cowardly way out. Um, I would so much rather um, see him apologize and say that I'm going to spend this year. Maybe he wouldn't, but I think it'd be the right thing to say, as well as obviously the right thing to do. Spend this year, reflecting and having conversations about using the N word and some of the things he did with ladies, and how his actions made others feel, and stay. To sell the team is almost like Donald Sterling, right? He sold the Clippers. We never heard from him again. And I think the same will happen with Sarver. He'll sell the Sun. I mean, how many people wouldn't want to buy the Phoenix Suns? If you have obviously you have that money in that space. I mean, that is got to be a pretty valuable franchise, I would guess. Um, but what were your thoughts when you saw that Sarver is now going to put the Suns up for sale?
Yeah, I kind of was thinking the same thing. Like, yeah, it is kind of like the easy way out. Because, like, in the end, so this guy is grossly inappropriate with women, with minorities, and he's still going to end up getting probably over $1 billion for his team.
Yeah,
Like, kind of seems a little wrong when you look at it from that perspective. I did also read that there was a lot of outside pressure for him to sell,
yeah.
from
Sponsors
the
jump
league,
in.
from
Yeah,
other
yeah,
owners, a lot of sponsors too. So
yeah,
I think with that, like especially when you start hearing, because like that's what caused the now Commanders to change their name, was because they said, well, we're backing out on all of our sponsorships. Um, so a lot of times it's more that money talks than actual change can talk. Um, but I mean, it'll be interesting to kind of see this team moving forward. Um, so we had mentioned a few weeks back the Seattle Mariners, who are still on the verge of clinching a playoff berth here.
right.
Of course, it happens the year after their part owner, president, CEO
Yeah,
had a lot of rude comments to say.
yeah,
Seems like when that distraction was gone, they kind of took off. So I
yeah,
wonder if the same thing would happen for the Suns, a team that was on the verge of winning the title last year, was an excellent team in the regular season, and then just got demolished by Dallas. I
yeah,
wonder how they're going to respond to this moving forward, because especially like the dust is going to settle with this, even if they don't have an actual owner until like mid-season. Like the whole distraction of this is probably going to be gone before training camp starts and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do moving forward.
yeah. Yeah, and even their vice chair person, the second in command there, was like calling for him to either go or sell the team or whatever. I don't know, man. To me, maybe it is for the best. I'm going to stick to what I think long term would work best, and that's having conversations about this stuff. And that to me is going to be sad. And listen, whether he changes or not, who knows? But there's going to be another one, whether it's in the NBA or in another sport. There's going to be another owner that is going to come out that they're behaving inappropriately, and then it's going to be same thing. We can't fire an owner. We can't force them to sell a team, but we can put that pressure on them. But but how about putting pressure on them to have conversations? I don't know. and maybe he didn't have any interest to do that. So um, the breaking news this morning, and we don't have a ton on it, but Ime Udoka, who is the coach of the Celtics, and who had, and maybe we can get Dave on maybe next week to get a Boston perspective on this because he had a spectacular first year, right? Um, he had a spectacular first year as a coach, taking them all the way to the finals, right? He only, coming a couple of games away from winning the title. But comes out that he's had an inappropriate relationship, and the latest was that he may get suspended for a long time. Yes.
Yeah, they said that there's some scenarios where he could be suspended a year.
Wow.
I was trying to find if I could get a little bit more on that or if any more's come out. Nothing yet though.
All right.
Um
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk more about that next week, and that's sad to see, because that's such a feel good news story. Listen, in New York, none of us like the Celtics, but you know, but Jason Tatum, I mean, is just a great player. Represents the NBA, I think, extremely well. And man, how many people wouldn't want to have Marcus Smart on their team? A defensive guy like that. So but and it was nice to see his success because we were like Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens stepping into GM. He's been such a good coach, and who's this guy that they're bringing in? And look how well he did. And I know he was with San Antonio, I think, for a long time as the assistant coach. So, all right, it is time to get some inspiration in, though, right? Uh, we, uh,
yep.
After those stories, we definitely gonna need some inspiration. First, I want to say I'm retracting the story we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and I was the one who brought up the whole BYU Duke volleyball team. The investigation has shown that this might not have happened. In fact, the investigation shows that it didn't happen, but it's hard to find any articles on that. And I think that's also a miss because when this was said that it happened, we could see articles and news about it all the time. But now they're saying it didn't. I'd like to know what happened, So, and I think a lot of fans did. And I'm thinking that whole South Carolina BYU game that we were talking about, the women's game to start, basketball game to start the season, that probably is still off when it shouldn't have been off. You see, we should have waited to have conversations. That's my whole thing. So I'm retracting that story because it says that probably didn't happen. But I'm curious. I don't think she would have just got out there and made it up. Something happened. I don't know. Maybe she just felt a vibe, but hopefully we'll see something on there. All right, real quick from me, and then we'll turn it over to you for yours. My inspiration this week, Maury Wills passed away a few days ago. And Maury Wills played with the Dodgers mostly in his career. He got traded to the Pirates 1967, spent a few years with them in the expansion draft. He went to the Expos. He hated it there, forced his way out of Montreal, and the Dodgers took him back. So he finished his career with the Dodgers. And I'm bringing up Maury Wills because, it's a bygone era. Maury Wills was by the way, you probably didn't know this. He was the first All-Star Game MVP in 1962. Maury Wills. Maury Wills was a shortstop, but he was the quintessential leadoff guy that got on and stole bases, had little or no power. And he won the MVP, the total season MVP in 1962 as well, because he set the stolen base record. He had 104 stolen bases in 1962, soon to be broken by Lou Brock in the 70s, and then certainly in 1990, I believe, to be broken by Ricky Henderson with 130. And that's a record I think is going to hold for a long time now because nobody steals bases. I have no idea who's the stolen base leader this year, but I bet that they don't have 50. Maybe you can go ahead. Yeah.
I just because I read this article this morning. Hold on, I still have it up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send this to you because it's interesting. 32 or 22 stats in 2022. The stolen base leader right now, John Birdie of the Marlins, who has 36.
36.
This would be the first time, unless he steals 4. This would be the first time that no one in baseball has stolen at least 40 bases since back in 1958 when Willie Mays led the league with 31.
Yeah. So Maury Wills, and that's such an interesting stat because it's kind of gone back to that. baseball has, because Maury Wills transformed it, because Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, even Hank Aaron were base stealers, Larry Doby, there were a few others, but Maury Wills took it to another level and just blew it away with 104 in 1962. And the Dodgers were enormously successful like that. They weren't a power hitting team, but they either got to, they got to the World Series a lot of times in the 60s, Um, and so let me give you his full stats from 1962. He had 208 hits. And what was interesting here, right? 208 hits, that's a lot of hits. He had 695 at bats, so he played every day. But 208 hits, only 13 doubles. So a guy with that much speed, he had only 13 doubles and 10 triples. So his thing was, I'm getting a base hit and I'm going to steal second. He batted 299, so a shade under 300, 104 stolen bases. He was caught stealing only 13 times. 104 bases stolen. He caught stealing only 13 times. And here was the other interesting stat. He also didn't take a lot of walks. He only had 51 walks and 695 at bats. So
Wow.
really, really interesting player who just was focused on getting a single, hitting it through the hole, getting a single, and getting the second base. And the Dodgers lived on that for all throughout, a good part of the 60s. 1965, he had another great year. He batted 286. He had 186 hits, and he had 94 stolen bases. Outside of that, the other years he would get, 50, 60 stolen bases. Um, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's been on the veteran committee ballot. I think now that he's passed away, they may look at him a little bit more seriously. Interesting career, postseason career, post after career rather, post playing career. Um, he was a broadcaster for NBC, the game of the week, for about 4 or 5 years. And I thought he was pretty good at that. I remember he had a very distinctive voice. He became manager of the Seattle Mariners for a year, but that wasn't his calling, because he took over midway through one year and he got fired midway through the next year. So he didn't make it through. He had a son, Bump Wills, who played in the majors for about 6 years, the same type of player. But it's a bygone era, man. I don't know why teams don't try to steal at least. I'll give you this real quick. The other night, it turned out to be a huge run with 2 outs. Pete Alonso stole second base, and there wasn't even a throw. And Pete Alonso's not the fastest guy in the world. He had a great jump, but there wasn't even an attempt to get him. And then, sure enough, the next batter, I think it was Jeff McNeil that was up, got a base hit, and he scored. And he wouldn't have scored from first base, with 2 outs. He gets to second base. I don't know why teams don't steal, more. There's so many double plays now. There used to be a lot less. And it was Maury Wills who really started that trend. And the Cardinals lived on speed also through the 70s and 80s. They were another team that had a lot of fast players. And then Vince Coleman came along, and I believe he stole 100, over 100 a couple of times. But who's going to get to Ricky Henderson's, right? There's nobody that's playing right now that's going to steal 131 bases, which is what they'd have to do. And think about how successful those Oakland team were, were on in his era. And even when he was with the Yankees, he was leading the league every year. So Maury Wills, inspiration for the stolen base. Bring the stolen base back. It's a bygone era.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like you had another stat to throw at me. If not, go ahead.
Well, I was just kind of curious because, so career stolen base leader active right now would be D. Gordon, who I forgot is still playing. 336 stolen bases.
336. Wow. D. Gordon might have been one had he I know he had some injuries, but his beginning of his career, he was stealing a lot of bases. He's with Washington now, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah,
there was a few guys that I think would have had a shot. John Birdie is not going to steal 100 bases, and John Birdie's a nice player. But I don't understand why. The Mets have a guy that they brought up, Terrence Gore, and I think he might have had, he's maybe had, and he's had a couple of good years, right? He was with the Royals. But the Mets have only brought him in. I think he's batted once or twice, but they've only brought him in as a pinch runner. and he steals bases so easy. And since he's been on the Mets, Brandon Nimmo, who didn't even attempt a stolen base all year, all of a sudden has 5 stolen bases or 3, something like that, because they're watching him and what he brings to the table. You put that pressure on the defense too, and on the pitcher. If Ricky Henderson got on, oh my goodness, the pitcher is their focus is split, right? From the batter to, oh my gosh, Ricky Henderson's on first base. And I don't know how many times Ricky Henderson stole third base in his career, but it seemed like every time he stole second, he stole third. And it didn't matter if it was a left-handed, batter up. So anyway, bygone era,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
All right, what do you
we
got?
might start to see a shift with the bigger
Maybe.
bases. It's supposed to be that,
Yeah,
and then also the
maybe.
weird pickoff rule, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
So I want to keep talking about Aaron Judge, but kind of in a different
Yeah.
perspective.
Go ahead.
I feel like the idea of betting on yourself is totally been Aaron Judge's mantra. Because not only is he having one of the best offensive seasons of all time, but like he turned down a pretty decent amount of money to say, like, hey, I think I can do better than this. And for me, it's very inspiring to say, like, if you really feel like God is pushing you in a certain area, like just go for it. Sometimes it's important to just kind of take the step of faith. And sometimes the biggest thing that's stopping someone from doing something is themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Aaron Judge, like he said, I'm not gonna let this distract me. I'm just gonna kind of keep doing my thing. And like, I mean, he's been laser focused, he hasn't got hurt. He's had an excellent season. I mean, like this is a season that people will be talking about for years. Hopefully it'll end with him hoisting up a trophy at the end, but we'll see how that works. And I think when you look at it, if the Yankees don't win the title, that's going to be the thing that sticks out for him. It's like, well, I don't really care how good of a season I did.
Yeah.
We didn't win at all.
Yeah.
But then also the young man, 20-year-old that caught
Yes.
the Aaron
Yeah.
Judge home run.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen like the highlights of that, but like the
Yes.
huge scrum getting that
Yes.
ball,
Yes.
he comes out with it, and they said that like based on like memorabilia and stuff, that ball could be worth anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000.
Oh my God.
And also like you talking 61, 62, those are gonna be obviously worth more. But he said like, I'm giving it back to him because he deserves it. He's done so much for myself and also so much for the Yankees, and that's the least I can do.
Wow.
And it's interesting seeing comments on like the story of that, where there's a lot of people like, oh, that's great, and then also like, man, he lost out on a lot of money. Like, I think it kind of goes to show you, like, yes, I know sports is still a business. I know that like there's a lot of the dollars and cents that happens why Aaron Judge was offered the contract he was. But when you look at it from like beyond just the business aspect, a lot of times sports can be very encouraging for people. And
no doubt.
And this guy is like Aaron Judge. He's kind of been my hero the last 5, 6, 7 years. So here you go. I got you.
I love everything about that story. I love everything about Aaron Judge this year. This is just a special, special year that you'll be telling your grandkids about. No doubt. And that young man that didn't hesitate to give that ball back to Aaron Judge, didn't want anything. I'm sure he probably got tickets or something like that. Hopefully they took care of him a little bit, But I just loved what he did. And yeah, man, oh man, I would not want to have been in the stands trying to get that ball. Jeez, oh my goodness. Definitely a few people came out a little bruised, without a doubt. All right, ending it there with some inspiration. Kenny, take us home.
All right. Well, this is Kenny Squared N.
Kenny.
With sports on the positive tip. Enjoy the games tonight. Next week, we'll probably be talking about a broken home run record.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Take care, everybody.